Welcome to Scarves and Spikes.
Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome to Scarves and Spikes. Sydney, Tyler, and Tommy together again on a match week, gentlemen. Atlanta United in action on Saturday against Nashville SC. How is everything? Tyler, welcome back.
I appreciate it. It is. Yeah, my normal thing would be like, oh, it's good to be back. And it's great to be back to this.
Right.
But I wish I was still on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean somewhere.
Well, we wouldn't have you then.
I know. Well, I'd find a way. I couldn't be away from y'all for that long.
Gotcha.
I might be on some crappy boat Wi-Fi, but I would be.
Yeah. Thomas, how's it going?
Getting over walking pneumonia, I guess.
Oof, I know. You were in rough shape, weren't you? Last week or so.
It's been a rough week, but I'm getting there. My voice is back a little bit.
Yeah. You're telling us a group text leading up to the show a few days ago, you're struggling with your voice. But yeah, good to see you here. Good to have the gang back together again.
Lots of meds. I'm medded up right now.
Are you going to be able to make it through the show?
I don't know. I'm either going to go my eyes will just keep getting bigger and bigger, or I just might fall asleep in the middle of it. You never know what happens.
We'll see.
Can I say something?
We'll get through it.
Shout out to Sweetwater, by the way. Carry on.
Roddy Peach IPA, I see you're drinking.
I needed to be able to talk about Atlanta United today because I don't want to go on a rant about it. But every first week after the NFL season happens, I just can't handle. I have to get away from Falcons, Twitter, everything. Like, you think that like other like fan bases of like other Atlanta teams are dramatic, and I do think the Braves one is real dramatic considering they just won a championship a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Atlanta United fans have nothing on the craziness of Atlanta Falcons fans. Like they're ready to take Kirk Cousins, put him in a spaceship, and just put him out into the sun.
I know.
Like that's the part where they're at. They're calling for everyone to be fired. They're calling for Arthur Blank to be fired. You can't fire yourself, right?
You fire the owner.
They're sending him back to Home Depot to go get a job, right? That's what they're doing. The overreactions of sometimes of teams, and like I get that the Falcons have been through a lot of stuff. Like us Falcons fans we've been through some shit, right? 28-3, that's a whole thing. But man, I'm just glad that we're able to talk about Atlanta United on Saturday, and then there's no Falcons on Sunday. Right? There's no hangover on Monday. That hangover comes on Tuesday because they play on Monday night.
Monday night football, baby.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, right. I'd rather be hungover on Tuesday, I guess, than a Monday.
Yeah.
Beat the worse, if you change it up, like if you're not hungover on the same day every week of the month, like you just got to keep your metabolism and everything going different days.
Keep you on your toes.
Exactly. Yeah, so again, Atlanta United playing on Saturday against Nashville SC, a derby match. And then Nashville SC will be bringing their fans down the trip, or making the trip down from Tennessee. So we'll be looking at that. We'll see them, of course. Sika from MLS Season Pass is calling the match. MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. He's calling the match on Saturday. He'll be joining us here a little bit later on. We do want to mention, too, MLS Season Pass. If you don't have it already, first, why not? Second of all, it's available at the lowest price, guys. $9.99 for the entire rest of the season through Decision Day. through the playoffs.
For the rest of the season, $9.99.
It's incredible. That's two coffees from Starbucks. That's 2 coffees from Starbucks,
or 1 depending on what you get.
It's a gallon of gas in some states. No, but only season pass, $9.99. Rest of the season, all the way through MLS Cup. Go subscribe if you haven't already. So Neil will be calling the match, he said, on Saturday. He'll be joining us here in a little bit. One other thing, you got to mention this too. Next Wednesday, before the match, we'll be at the Signia by Hilton Hotel, back at the Signia, right before the match. Messi or no Messi, I know it'll be a weeknight. Folks will be maybe struggling to get out there, but we'll be there anyway. Coming out with us, Tyler and I will be there certainly. Hopefully Henry
is looking like he'll be there as well.
Yeah, Henry will be joining us for sure. Hopefully, I know you said he will be, and I just said for sure. Hopefully, that made no sense. For sure, hopefully, but yeah, Tyler and Henry will be hanging out. Come join us. Got some drink specials. Got some food. We'll have the food specials. We'll put them on their socials to see what they got going on. But Signia by Hilton Hotel, right across through from the Benz, overlooking the backyard. Can't miss it. Just go through. It's on the 4th floor, of course. Nest on 4. And yeah, we'll be hanging out there. If you can't make it, join us online. We'll be streaming it here on YouTube, X, and on Facebook. Yeah.
Such a sweet place.
So that's next Wednesday, not this Saturday, but next Wednesday against Inter Miami. And Tyler, you stayed at the Signia before. You can vouch.
Yeah, they're not paying me to say any of this, but it's a sweet place to stay at. I wish they paid me to or give me a free room when I come in town in 3 weeks.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's great. Like you wake up, roll over, hop in the shower, walk down the stairs, go down the elevator, and you got about a 3-minute walk over to get in the stadium, right? Like that's that was probably the greatest part. But well, actually, no, it wasn't getting to the stadium. It was getting home from the stadium, right?
Yeah,
getting into my bed, right? It was like, all right, I'm leaving. I walk out the back. I see the mirror ball, and I could just go straight across the field and do it. And then when you wake up at 3 a.m, you could look out your window and then see the robot dog patrolling the streets. And that's honestly the best part of staying at the 9. It's just looking out your window and watching the robot dog. You know, I just want to see like the dog have like a taser that comes out of it and just like tases somebody.
That's the 2.0 version.
Yeah.
I want to see I want to have like them to have a contest, like get to play with the dog for a day. I would do that.
Right. No, you're a dog guys. You both are dog guys.
But robot dogs? I don't know. I've never spent time with robot dogs.
Whole different ball game there.
I heard they don't pet well, so I don't know.
Do they pee oil?
Maybe.
Perhaps.
But all the spots around the backyard are.
Yeah, exactly. No, but we'll be back there again, not this Saturday, but next Wednesday. Signia by Hilton Hotel.
Get the steak frites. Is that how you pronounce that? I think that's.
I think so.
I had that last time. That was freaking good.
Yeah, it was so good.
Rosemary fries with them. So good.
All the food's good there. I can't say all the food. I'm sure it is. I'm sure all the food is good. I haven't tried it all.
Everything we've tried has been.
Everything we've tried is good. But yeah, Signia by Hilton Hotel, Nest on 4, 4th floor of the Signia. You can't miss it, right across from the Benz. But yeah, again, we mentioned on Saturday, Lady United will be playing against Nashville SC, and it seems like it's been forever, guys, since Atlanta have had a home match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Last one. How you got this dog hanging out with them?
I got all of them surrounding me right now.
But yeah, at the bench, it seems like it's been a while, over a month. Last time at home was the loss and penalty to Santos Laguna in Leagues Cup. Atlanta, of course, had the break on the Leagues Cup break, came back, played the Galaxy away, played Charlotte away and won. And now back home in front of the Benz. Fortunately, we don't think it's going to be full. It'll be pretty full. It's a derby, but it won't be as solid, we don't think. But still, an opponent that is on the schedule for Atlanta United, and we kind of talked about it last time. They're really struggling. I feel like they kind of turned the page to 2025, and no Atlanta fans will say, "Don't say that, karma and all that." But I mean, in all seriousness, it's true, right? This is a team that Atlanta have playoff ambitions at least. I mean, as much as they struggle, they at least are saying, "Hey, we feel like this team can make the playoffs." And I know, Tommy, you don't consider the play-in game playoffs proper. But
it's not real.
And we talked too about there's a world where Atlanta could get into the top 7 out of that playoff spot. It's slim, but there's a world where that could happen. But Nashville, a new coach, they're on a really lengthy losing streak. A lot of teams ahead of them. If they don't beat Atlanta, their season is done. But I would argue, somewhat controversially, their season is essentially done for the most part. And we'll talk to we'll have a Patreon interview with Ben Wright. We'll have it available to our patrons a little bit later, maybe Thursday night, Friday morning, talking about the match. He writes for Broadway Sports Media, he writes for MLSsoccer.com, front of the show. We'll be talking to us about that. So a little plug. You become a Patreon backer if you aren't already. But
can I ask you? Can you ask a question for me?
Yes.
You got to ask it just like this. Ben Wright, what is going wrong with Nashville? Continue. Just continue. I'm done. I said I had a limited voice today. I'm saving it for this type of content.
No, but
am I right?
Very clever. Very clever.
Yeah, am I right? Yeah.
We'll get into the match, in depth a little bit later on. But I guess just quick pulse check. How are you guys feeling? At least.
Oh, we have a contest later. Sorry, we didn't mention it. We're gonna do the drawing.
We'll be announcing our winner for EA Sports FC a little bit later
after our interview. We'll do the wheel. 2 copies.
Yeah, 2 copies. But yeah, pulse check. How are you guys feeling, at least early on, about this match? It's still a few days out, but how are you guys feeling?
Well, as somebody who wasn't here last week and came back to my phone blowing up,
I
feel like I haven't got to get all that out about the Boca Negra news. But beside that, I mean, I don't know. Look, I watched the Charlotte game in Ocala, Florida, right? Like hours before I was going to get on a boat to leave. And I was like, man, this is great. They're actually playing like gritty football. And they look like a team that wanted to win. And they didn't look pretty doing it necessarily. They defended well. Pedro Amador, I thought, was really, really phenomenal. But they just played good soccer. And then I know you've already discussed all those points, but I just think it's funny that Atlanta and Charlotte have now gone 2 full seasons and played each other and not won the derby at their own home stadium.
Yeah.
That's wild to me. But I think that's kind of the beginnings of like an actual derby, like a true derby, not one that's manufactured, right? Then you got Nashville coming to town, and both teams have a lot to prove. But all the stuff off the field, I think it's going to be a big ask for Rob Valentino to get his guys to just focus on just that. I mean, you've got a head coach job that's open. You've got now technical director job that's open. You've got so much stuff going on, man. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other things. I mean, if he can come home and get another win against Nashville, who are struggling, admittedly, they haven't won a game since like June, I think.
Right.
We said that about Santos Laguna.
Yeah, right. I know. So I'm trying not to put too much emphasis on it.
Good point. I'm just kidding.
But I mean, I still think Atlanta's the better team, even though they're bipolar as crap. I still think they're the better team. And you've got to win at home. Like, you've got to get back to winning at home, man. Because this having piss poor performances in the bins that's got to stop. That's got to stop.
Yeah, and I just kind of joked about with Tommy, but this team does have the propensity to play down or play to the level of its opponent. I mean, this is a team that beat the defending MLS Cup champions, probably one of the best teams in the continent at their place, but just laid a stinker against one of the worst teams in the continent at their place. So, like you said, this is a bipolar Jekyll and Hyde Atlanta United that we've been seeing, just for the better part of the season. It's just tough to wrap your mind around. I think on Saturday, if Atlanta United can beat Nashville, I mean, it will show, hey, Nashville's down bad. We already talked about that, but it will show, hey, we can beat the teams that we need to beat. Yeah, we say the same thing about LA. LA was just all around better team. There's a gulf between the two sides, right? Um, Charlotte, very improved performance. But no, yeah, I mean, you have to win. I mean, again, you can't play to the level of your opponent. You can't play down to opponents that you should be beating. And this is the opponent Atlanta should be beating. And, if they lose, essentially you could maybe kiss playoffs goodbye altogether. So you have to get up for this match. You have to be ready for this match. And I question how many times this team has been ready for the jump, in a lot of matches this season. So I guess that's just my kind of thought process on it.
I watched the Miranchuk video where he's
Yeah.
he's walking over to the area. I got a picture over there, the little walkway at the the top of heaven up there, and he was just like, wow, right? He was in amazement, and he's scoring.
Think so.
He's scoring.
I think he is.
I mean, it's
Good job.
cool to see people's reactions, and whether you want to say it's genuine or it's not. I mean, everyone's gonna. Jonathan, we'll get to score predictions. We're only 16 minutes into this. That's our intern. We know he's new. This is Jonathan, the intern. He's gonna get there. We'll get there. We just didn't have a lot to talk about at the beginning. Look, when you walk in that stadium, whoever you are, and they've said this for years, right? I mean, when Mercedes-Benz opened, new people going there for the first time, people that played their first ever time, right? A lot of teams, right? A lot of players was first ever time in there. They said it was intimidating. And it wasn't just the fans too. It's just you're in the spaceship, right? You're in this gigantic place, right? You've got horns, you've got the halo board. I mean, it's just such a unique place, especially to MLS. And then you go to some of these stadiums, right? Like my first experience was at the Old Crew Stadium. All right. My high school stadium was nicer than Old Crew Stadium, right?
Don't tell Crew fans that though.
Oh, I tell them that all the time. That place floods. The bathrooms were flooding every time I've ever been there. No, that place was garbage. I hate that place. There's nowhere to go. Like, it's just a parking lot. There's no bars. There's no nothing there. The new place is sweet. But that was my first MLS experience, was seeing Atlanta United there. And I remember walking in there, and I seen Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I've been there, right? Hadn't actually gone to it. I'm like, this place is a joke, right? How many of these other stadiums are like this? So I can imagine, especially then, like you see some of these Crew players playing at this crappy stadium then, and then they go into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and they're like, oh, we have working plumbing here? Damn, like this is nice, right? and that's just it's cool, and I think for that, I mean, obviously it's a seller, right? Now we could talk about the turf, and that's a whole other story, but we're not going to get into that today. But still, like it's just it's a cool place to go into, and I think it's a selling spot for MLS players, NFL players. It's just a really cool place to be, and seeing that reaction was cool. And he seems like a genuine guy too, right? And I'm hoping they continue to showcase him in the future on these videos that they do, and hopefully they get back to it. We've talked about that a lot, about how this team needs to start showing the personality of their players, and this one seems like he has a personality. Some players don't, they really don't, or they just don't show it on camera. This dude's gonna show his personality, right? He did in his press conference, just like Giakoumakis did, right? But I think this guy's just a genuine cool dude, right? Like you could go sit on a patio with him, and he's gonna talk to you about his favorite, rap albums, and he just seems like a cool guy. So I think I said this in our Discord, and everybody laughed at me. I said, we're winning this game. We're winning it.
And you talk about the impact it has on players and fans. I mean, we're kind of limited how we look at things. Like, if we look at it from a American sports standpoint, North American sports standpoint, you can put Mercedes-Benz up against really just about every stadium in the world, any stadium in the world. Like, if you go to the Premier League, I'm talking solely from a construction aspect, from a feature aspect. How many stadiums have just the breadth and the just the attractiveness that Mercedes-Benz has. And I know there are a lot of Premier League stadiums that have a lot of affinity because they've been around for a while. And I definitely don't want to take away from that. But when it comes to just how state-of-the-art cutting edge the stadium is, it's just incredible. And it's in our backyard in Atlanta. And, when players see it, it's obviously it does blow them away because they've never seen anything like that before with respect to other leagues where they've played, other stadium where they've played. So there definitely is credence to that.
Well,
And
and to
I
that
think,
point,
yeah,
just really quick, like you think about, you can name on one hand, really, like the Bernabeu, Camp Nou,
yeah,
La Bombonera, and I mean the
Monumental,
Etihad. Well, even the Etihad is not. It's not like that big. It's been renovated, right?
right?
I mean, but as far as just like grandeur and
Yeah, no,
like
exactly.
what it is, there's not many that are going to be close to the Benz.
No, exactly. And I think that definitely gets credence to what you guys were talking about. He's going to want to make. I mean, it's tough to believe this is his first match in front of home fans. He's going to want to make an instant impression on the home fans, and maybe that's one of the factors that plays into it and says, "Hey, you know what? I want to impress these fans. I want to show them what I can really do, what I'm really capable of." And he has the opportunity on Saturday to impress these fans. And you know, Scarth has said when he integrates himself into the team, it's going to be that much better. I don't know how much one person can do to really lift the team. I mean, let me backtrack. Players can come in, one player can come in and really lift your team. I don't know if he'll have the same impact as maybe Almada or Joseph or something like that, but I hope that once he gets worked into this team fully, he can become the player that Atlanta United have built him to be, because they've put a lot of pressure on him as well, like in their marketing, in their videos, etc., how they've talked about him. So he has a lot to live up to in that regard too. So yeah,
Yeah. No,
it's a lot.
I agree. I mean, he doesn't have to, totally take over the game, but
Yeah.
he needs to be able to help move the ball forward, which is
Yeah.
the thing that we've
he's gotta
had a
be
lot of problems.
Yeah, he has to be the cohesive guy, the guy that's going to make everybody else around him better. And I would argue that in both the games he's played in, he's done that. He doesn't have the numbers to show for it, but again, it's not always about the numbers. This team, despite the numbers, was better when Thiago Almada this year was playing for them. They weren't as good as they should have been, right? But this team was better when Almada was here because he at least did things that the team they didn't have a backup for, period. You just didn't have a replacement. You've got this guy now, and if he's not playing, the team's not going to play the same. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot riding on it in terms of pressure, but I think he's the guy. Like, his personality just seems like the guy that he's going to feed off of that, in a really, really good way. Because some people shy away from that kind of pressure,
Yeah.
and I don't think he will.
Real quick, do you guys think, and kind of take a wider lens view of this? Saba, of course, was in Europe playing Nations League matches with Georgia. We assume he flew back on Wednesday, but he was playing on Tuesday night. We assume the flight back was on Wednesday. Do we think he plays on Saturday? He hasn't trained with the team this week. You guys think he plays on Saturday?
Yeah.
Has to. I mean, you're in a must-win situation for everything.
Yeah.
You're not Miami. You're not Miami right now,
Right.
where you've got you can sit Messi for another month and still be in the clear.
Sure.
You have to
already.
win. What's that?
Like, Miami's already clinched. They clinched like 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah. Right.
Not
Right,
a spot, but they're in the playoffs.
Playoffs.
So yeah, I mean,
Playoffs. Yeah.
I think he has to start. For me, I think he has to. You don't have any other options. You don't have any other quality options here.
Yeah, and he didn't play in either match, so that's another factor.
Well then,
so.
yeah.
But I was thinking,
Lead with that next
like
time. I don't pay attention to
I was
Georgia
thinking,
soccer.
it's like the fact that he was overseas, jet lag. He hasn't traded with the team. I mean, yeah, I can see where he plays.
he was also the guy that got back from the Euros, came home early.
That's true.
Admittedly early.
That's true.
And was like, "Let's go! I'm ready to get going." So I don't think he's going to miss out at all.
Probably took the first flight out of Tbilisi,
Yeah.
as far as we know, or maybe not Tbilisi, wherever he flew out of, Tirana or something like that. of Albania.
Yep.
We don't know.
How do you know all these airports?
I mean, they're
So-
cities. I mean,
I looked up. So I was looking up. I didn't know where Georgia Albania played. I knew it was in Albania, but I didn't know what Albania's capital was. But it's Tirana, Albania. They hadn't conceded a goal, I don't think, in some time.
Who?
And everyone's calling Albania, and everyone's calling like their stadium hell, except essentially because they just hadn't allowed a goal in a while, and Georgia scored once. I forget who the guy was that scored, but
that's
yeah.
something to what is it in? Is it Costa Rica, or where's the Thunderdome? Is that
I
Nicaragua?
don't know.
Anyway, like stadiums get nicknames, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you just call this place hell.
That's what the fans were calling it. That's what the fans were calling it.
I mean, a lot of people call Mercedes-Benz Stadium hell.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
home fans call it hell because it's tough to win.
All I keep
too.
seeing is that meme of like someone standing in front of Mercedes-Benz Stadium with the gas can.
Yeah.
That's what I just keep seeing every time. It's usually for Falcons ones, but it could apply to any team there.
Yeah, so Saba was on international duty. Abram was as well in World Cup qualifying. He was never going to play anyway. I don't think he's going to play anyway on Saturday. And then Leash was in Nations League as well with Poland. I think he does play on Saturday, certainly, because his match was a few days before. But yeah, I definitely see both playing. It's Leash and Saba playing. But those were the only three players on international duty. I hate it. I hate having an international break right there. I mean, we just had the in FIFA's defense, the League Cup break was kind of not supposed to be a break for every single team. If you know what I mean. But it's just weird. Then we're gonna have another break before the 7th day. I mean, it's just.
But then you have the Premier League is what 2 weeks in, and then they take a break.
Yeah,
and it's like, dude, come on, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get on that
tease. Like you get 2 weeks in, and you're like, just want to wake up the next weekend. You're like, oh, it's not here.
Yep. Just when I was getting going.
No, I know. I was getting ready. It's annoying. It's annoying. Then of course, Pochettino is officially named on Tuesday as the head coach of U.S. men's national team. It sounds like he's gonna shake things up. So, Tommy, you and I briefly talked about it last show, but he is official now. He is officially the U.S. men's national team coach. Has some Isodat to cross with Bluco and Chelsea before he got fully released, I guess, from his contract, from his obligations there. So I expect him to shake things up, certainly, as soon as next month they play in Austin, his first official match in charge of the U.S. men's national team. So I expect big things from him. He's on until 2026, so he's your man through the World Cup. I know some people have said, managers should be around past World Cup cycles if they get hired like 2 years before. But I guess first impressions about how Mauricio Pochettino is going to do with the U.S. men's national team and what you guys expect. I know we already talked about it, but just real quick.
Y'all know my feelings on Pochettino. I love the guy. If you're a nerd like I am, go read the book, Brave New World. It's about him. It's his autobiography. But I mean, I love him as a coach. Always have. He is of that same vein as Marcelo Bielsa. So in line with Tata Martino, he's probably one of the best man managers that you're going to find. And that's what the men's national team needs right now. They need somebody who's going to come in and absolutely shake things up. And if there was any player, any coach that was going to do it, it was going to be Pochettino, because he has no ties to anything, really. He's got some relationships maybe with a couple of the players, but not to the point where I think he's not the type of guy that's going to be, he's not going to have an altered judgment from his past. He's going to go in and he's going to do what's best for the team. And I think everybody can agree that shaking things up, some of the guys that have been getting time that probably shouldn't have been getting time, some other guys that probably should be that haven't been. He's the guy to come in and do it. So I am thoroughly happy with this news now that it's actually official.
Likewise. What do you think, Tommy? I mean, you mentioned last week, but I guess what are your initial thoughts?
I can't get my emotions too high on this at the moment, right? I mean, there's been moments where like it feels so high and then it goes so low here. It's been a roller coaster over the past few years of this, and I need to see what it looks like, and that's I don't want to really explain how I feel about this, because it's just every time I get excited about something, it's bad. Kirk Cousins, I was so excited about it. I had my Kirk Cousins jersey on. I was ready to go, and then I took more steps than he probably did in the, walking from my couch to the fridge, right? I took more steps than Kirk Cousins did that entire game. So I am not getting excited. I am not. I've learned my lesson. No more hot takes on the internet, because they will go.
Hey,
I'll leave it at that.
Don't blame
please
you.
win. Please win.
So yeah, that's our kind of takes on Pochettino, and of course we'll talk about that more as the weeks progress. It'll be officially announced to the media, introduced to the media on Friday. But again, LA United taking on Nashville SC on Saturday, derby match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Tommy, you were talking about Columbus a little bit ago. One person that knows Columbus a little bit, as a former voice of the Columbus crew on television, and now with MLS Season Pass, he's going to the match on Saturday, is Neil Sika. Neil, how's it going?
Gentlemen, great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Likewise.
Yeah,
I need to match the background with the scarves, though. It's a little too Spartan back there with just my Ohio ties.
Nothing wrong with that.
All good.
I moved recently, so I guess we have to let it slide, but it works for the time being. Good to be with you.
Yeah, great to have you. Great to bring you on the show. So we'll get into the match on Saturday in just a little bit, but I just want to kind of pick your brain on Columbus just a little bit. I mean, you know the team well. You called their matches regionally for a while before you came over with MLS Season Pass. I mean, looks like they could push again for MLS Cup, hopefully beyond next year in Champions Cup. I mean, does it surprise you that I was going to say Thierry Henry? Does it surprise you that Wilfried Nancy has had so much success with this team in this relatively short period of time with Columbus?
He's becoming a rock star like Thierry Henry. I think you could compare the two, and they know each other very well. You know, the interesting thing about watching the crew now from afar, and I've had a few of their matches. Lloyd and I have had a few of their matches. We've got one coming up at the end of the month in DC. Throughout the history of the club, regardless of their salary budget or who the ownership group was, they put together a pretty competitive product on the field. And I was lucky to be a part when I was just getting going and doing radio, the 2008 MLS Cup. You could go back to the early days of the 2000s and turn a century when they won the Open Cup. And then the build up to even that truncated COVID year and Lucas Zelarayan and winning the title in 2020. But what the NFL dollars have done, and with an organization like yourself who is aware of that in Atlanta, and the stadium they play at, which is just fantastic. You know, I haven't been to everyone. I'm getting there now on this Season Pass tour, but it's top 3, top 5 for me for sure, and that's just eradicating the bias from my Columbus days. But what I notice now, guys, is the attitude in which they play with under Nancy. It's almost like, all right, we may give up a goal here, playing out of the back. We can do 20 guys in terms of our personnel, not starting our best guys, come at you. We'll give up a goal. Who cares? We're coming at you. We're going to score 2 or 3 times. Come and beat us. And it'd be fascinating. They've got Miami coming up, right? And this buzzkill of what happened with the goalkeeping situation for them. And then, you know, whether they win the game or not, who knows, against Seattle. But it kind of takes them out of the shield running. But just maybe a preview of what could be in terms of many pegged to be the favorites probably in the Eastern Conference right now, whether it be Inter Miami or Columbus. Do they meet in the Eastern Conference final? They're going to play on a Wednesday night here. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about the tones of that game. Has Miami clinched the shield by that time? Do they rest some players? Who knows? But a full strength group with those two. And MLS is the beauty of it, right? The knockout rounds of the playoffs. You don't know in the single elimination format on paper. It sounds good. But I noticed that disposition under them, under Wilfried, more than any part of the era of the club. And it's exciting to watch. And I think that they're in a position to continue this run for as long as they have him, for as long as they continue to develop their young players. I mean, that's one of the features he did in Montreal. He took a roster that, I mean, can you name a ton of players outside of Kyoto and Mihailovic from that Montreal team that started to develop under him? And then, of course, they had the tensions at the top. He comes here, and it's been the biggest acquisition they've made. Now they're going to be in the talks, kind of like Atlanta. Does Kucho, is he sold for 20 million, 25 million in the next couple of windows? Could be. But, it's one thing now that you've taken the attention of, and this is the really fascinating part about the Columbus-Atlanta tie for me. I remember the playoff game in 2017, going down there and doing radio.
Yeah.
And it was just such a weird feeling because we're 2 weeks outside of the whole Save the Crew and the possible announcement. And of course, the team stays the next year and everything gets figured out at the back end of the 2018 season. But by then, we were unsure, and it was a really entertaining 0-0 affair. Yeah. Stefan makes the saves in the shootout round, and we advance. I remember seeing just some of the ownership, and we were like all excited, but it's kind of like, well, there's this elephant in the room. Like, what's going to be of all of this down the road? So that will always stick out, being there. And honestly, the first time I had been back since that game was the only Atlanta game I had this year. Had some fireworks at the end of it with the Toronto finish. So being able to do that game, I'm looking forward to getting back there. But wrapping up the Columbus part, they're a force to be reckoned with, and more so than they ever have been in their 29 or their 28 previous seasons. So I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I'm looking forward to this stretch run. You were talking about the fact that it's kind of this staggered thing. You get the international break. We just got out of Leagues Cup. You play 2 games. Well, us as announcers, like, we want that rhythm, right? We want to come back at these 3 matches in a week. So I've been chomping at the bit, and so is Lloyd, and I'm sure all of our crew have been too, to get back and get this thing rolling again.
One last thing about Nancy, that whole press conference afterwards.
Yeah.
I woke up on Sunday and I had it on the TV, and my son walks by and just starts hearing him, just at the end when he's going off and he starts swearing. He's like, man, are they allowed to say that, Dad? and I go, well, he's real upset. He goes, why is he upset? And I tried to explain to him the whole rule about call-ups, and he just goes, yeah, this is stupid. And he just walks away. Just stop caring.
And the interesting thing about Wilfried, he's always trying to be polite in the manner he does it. So it really set him off, or at least the build-up to that game had set him off, because when English is not your first language and you're speaking or trying to speak with conviction and deliver the message, you're doing it in a tone where it doesn't sound like it's broken English. So the poise about him when he does that, he is really something to behold if you get to meet him ever firsthand. I've been impressed in the meetings we've had. I know analysts across the league love talking and picking his brain, and where's his future lie down the road? It's probably a club in Europe, so we'll see how long.
Yeah, me and Tommy and I were at MLS Cup last year, and got to be in the press conference room when he was speaking, and he's very eloquent, right, in his conversations, and he does a great job in explaining, what his process, everything that he wants to do. But that man should have been coach of the year back in the Montreal days, much less now.
Yeah. So it's this vibrance that has made this club so popular now. I mean, if you've ever traveled to a game here, even in the early days when Atlanta came out, flying in 2017, 18, 19, like shot out of a cannon with those teams, Fairgrounds was always a great place to watch a game, but you get that type of facility, you get the team that they have now, and everyone wants to talk about the Crew on a regular basis, start to finish. And, it's a college football town. You're familiar how big college football is in the Southeast and know that vestibule. So, but to get its space in the arena is impressive to behold in what they've been able to accomplish here.
Yeah, I was down there Saturday for a concert at Nationwide, But, right down the street, the Crew were playing, and it's just interesting because I'm a big hockey guy, and hockey really hasn't hit its stride in Columbus, right? Like they get a decent crowd for some things, and like for a college town, you wondered, like, was the NHL gonna do well? And they've done well on occasions, but I mean, once the Crew moved into that area down there, it just really. It really transformed them into something totally different. I don't know if you heard me talking trash about old Crew Stadium before that you were on. When you start talking about the old days, I don't think I've ever been there where I tried to go to the bathroom and it was flooding everywhere.
Yeah. My old broadcast partner, Dwight Burgess, would call it the lovely little erector set, And the views were great. I love the broadcast booth there. It was just, it was what it was needed in the time in 1999 for this league, and just the concept of having a soccer-specific stadium, right? It's like, well, we're going to do that. We're not going to play in these shared venues. But I will say, from the hockey perspective, this is a big hockey town. They love the Blue Jackets. They've just been so frustrating to watch on so many levels over the course of the last decade. And this whole town's in mourning over the Johnny Gaudreau stuff, which is just unreal to think about still, and not to switch gears, but it's a very supportive group that deserves a winner. I mean, they've won one playoff series since they came into existence in 2000. So winning cures a lot, right? And when you start that and then build in terms of the harmony, and that's where the Crew example comes into play, then all of a sudden you're creating a juggernaut, and that's essentially what Columbus is doing right now with the Crew. We'll see how it plays out though in the postseason.
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of switching gears, talking about Saturday's match. No, it's great.
Oh, that's why you're here. Okay.
Definitely appreciate your insight. I mean, you know a lot about the Crew more than we do, but just kind of talking about Saturday's game. You have two teams, Atlanta, on the tip of the iceberg. I guess not the tip of the iceberg, but like right now on the outside of the playoff picture, looking and just barely.
Yeah,
we're just stringing a few wins together. They'll be back in the race. They have Mirren, Chuck, and UDP trying to get integrated with the team. You have Nashville, new head coach, much further out the playoff picture. Kind of looks like they're more focused on 2025 at this point for good reason. As you prepare for the match, what's kind of your first pulse check of the match? What to expect? Things you've noticed? Things like that.
Gosh, and I would never say the word like trap game because it means so much to Atlanta. Like at this juncture of the season, when you get to these positions and you're in a possible playoff spot, or you're trying to get into the top 7 or 8 or 9, or who knows, it might be 10 and 11 down the road, who knows. I always feel like if you're Atlanta United, right, you've got to beat the teams that are below you in the standings.
Yeah.
And that goes for anybody. And for what the remaining games of their 7, they've got 4 at home. Philadelphia is there. That's a neck and neck game right there. You got Montreal below, and then everyone else is in a playoff position right now. And the crazy thing to say, like Nashville looking forward to 2025, and they very well could be, but BJ Callahan comes in, that situation all of a sudden was like, we're completely rerouting the way we want to play. And we're going to try and play out of the back. There may be some horrific mistakes back there, but they pressed really well to start the Austin and the Orlando games. They should have 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of that game. So clearly you don't want to lose 9 in a row. I mean, professional pride comes into play here. And you're coming in with regional rivalry. So I'm thinking also Nashville, you look at the standings, 8-15, 7 points.
Yeah.
That's 2 wins.
Yep.
So they win that game, all of a sudden they're thinking, hey, we might be right back in this thing.
Yeah.
And for Atlanta, knowing how many leads they've had at home that have become draws. And I mentioned I did the Toronto game, right? We're thinking that game, that's a preposterous ending, that's going to finish a draw. They won their first 3 home games, right? And what have they done since? 2, 5, and 3. I mean, it's a basic formula. You guys know this. If you win your home games, if you win the majority of them, you're going to be in good standing for a playoff spot. And they're 500 right now at home. So I'm sure that's what they're looking at, knowing full well, not looking ahead. They got Miami coming up right in the midweek.
Yeah.
This is the game they have to have. They have to have it.
So kind of looking at the individual aspects of it, I mean,
Yeah.
You mentioned, BJ Callahan coming in, and I want to say that he transitioned in shortly after.
He came in Leagues Cup debut, right?
Yeah. So it would have been shortly after the first time Atlanta played up in Nashville. But since then, obviously, some changes have happened both sides. But Atlanta now has Alexei Miranchuk, and just the little bit of time that he's been here, what have kind of been your overall thoughts and opinions in seeing him play?
A guy who wants to get involved in terms of combinations, quick touch 1-2 passes, progressive passes, right? They don't need him to be Thiago Almada, but they can find a way for him to be the distributor, someone else who can maybe take the pressure off of Brooks Lennon, creating the majority of chances for this team. And Silva's up there. Silva gets into great spots, right? But oftentimes he's shot wide at the target, shot right at the goalkeeper. He's got himself into some great positions. And with the way Saba's playing, you got the Black Sea brothers there. I think they could roll with something. That front four, and if you got to decide on who the forward's going to be, right?
We're gonna have to make that stick, by the way, Black Sea brothers.
I like it. I'll use it. I'll use it on Saturday for you.
Yeah, I like that.
I promise. Chare, is he the guy? Rios, right, had a great mid-June to mid-July with all these goal contributions. And you lost some big personnel with the window, and everyone wants to talk about that and the Boca Negra departure. But you're focused on with the group that you have, there's enough talent there to get this over the finish line, I think, in getting one of the 9 postseason spots, at least in the top, or at least 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that's all reasonably in play. But Miranchuk, this guy is a quality player. Designated players. I mean, it's a simple statement. Whether it be Saba, whether it be him, this is what you pay these guys for. These are the types of games they need to perform down the stretch when it matters most. This is still a DP-generated league where you're not going to go very far if those guys don't perform. But I've liked what they've been able to do. They've created 15 chances in each of the last 2 games with him on the field. I mean, they lose the LA game right late, but how many chances do they have early on in that game? First half, chances to take the lead, right? And they outplayed Charlotte. They probably could have had 2 or 3 more goals if Colleen didn't make some great saves. So, you have to like what they've been able to do over the course of the 2 games with him on the field.
I wonder what it's like in the locker room for these players. When you get a manager change, that's one thing, and then you see the guy that basically helped start Atlanta United with Carlos Bocanegra leaving, right? And a lot, and some guys I always felt like have been like in favor, right? Like Brad Guzan, there's been a lot of talk over the years, like whether he'd stay or not. Obviously, high contract, very high contract there, and now it's like everything's just kind of in limbo with Atlanta United, right? They don't have a manager, they don't have a technical director, and there's so much change coming, right? And there's a lot of players that have options. So I wonder how that motivates all these players going forward, knowing that nothing's guaranteed.
That's a good question. But I think in the moment and in the now, you want to perform. I go back to the professional pride, of Nashville. You don't want to lose 9 games in a row. These guys still have something to prove with the contracts that they signed. And Garth is a smart guy. He's pushed the right buttons everywhere he's been. And you're kind of getting this breath of fresh air. You were talking about Pochettino before I came on, and it's good to have a new voice in the room. But while you still have guys like McCarty in the final games of his career, and Brad, those are voices who they've seen it all, right? And they're level-headed guys. Rob is a level-headed guy. I love talking to Rob. There's no mysterious nature of what may happen after this season. He's a smart dude. He's going to coach somewhere one way or the other down the road. It's a level-headed group, and having those 2 guys, and even Brooks, who's been here for a long time, using their leadership, right, amongst also the talent that you have, I would think it could galvanize the group. Because again, you get back to, say you get into the playoffs, it's all about the matchups, right, in the first round. Maybe you steal something. There's enough attacking talent, right? This team has underperformed their expected goals, if you're into that, by 17? So there's enough pieces to where they're exciting enough on a regular basis where I think that they could make a little bit of noise. They could be kind of the unknown if they get into the postseason. Whether they win a wild card game, whether they win the first round series, who knows? There's enough. You talk about the other side of the ball, and they still have given up less than 40 goals, but the timing of the goals and not protecting leads and transitional defense. This is all stuff you're familiar with watching this team throughout the course of this season. And so
I feel like you're watching it with us. Like, so much about this team.
we've done a lot over the course of keeping an eye on it. And Lloyd's got a great eye for this stuff, and we talk often. It's just like any announcing team does. But the point being is, if you're oftentimes selling off your best players or bringing in $50 million or whatever the final number is going to be and all these transfer fees, and you're changing things at the top, that is a good excuse to sometimes say, oh, it's chaotic. And if things crumble, okay, so what? We're starting in a fresh direction. But this team, I think, has the ability still with the talent on the field to transition in a manner where they can still have some mild success in 2024 and for the fans' enjoyment. They were still made a decent run in the Open Cup. Yeah, it wasn't a great exit to Indy 11, but that they were still competing for a trophy there. And
you might cause Tommy to start twitching all off camera in a minute.
Right.
You didn't start your starters. You didn't start your best players.
No, that's fair. You didn't play. You played a lot of guys who've seen Atlanta 2 minutes, and that's a discussion I'm sure that we could go down a wormhole with, and how the teams handle the Open Cup in general in this new era. But for the sake of MLS and the 7 games remaining and every headline that Atlanta's made, they're still in position to be prosperous, or at least get to the postseason and then see what happens.
Yeah, you mentioned
you could be in a worse situation, right?
Yeah, you could. Definitely could.
Yeah. But look, you guys set
the
bar so high, right? Like, only LAFC you can speak on that terms, and the elongated success of Seattle when they came in as an expansion club. I mean, when you hit that level like they did from 2017 to 19, and then have kind of a step back to earth or reality, like people, it's not that long ago, right?
Right.
4 or 5 years ago, you're longing for those good old days. Like, there's been a lot.
Feels like 30 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Anything prior to COVID feels like forever.
It does. It really does. It's crazy to think about it like that. Even that 2020 season, like that crew title and the games that were played down in Orlando, and oh man,
it was like 2 games. It was 2 regular season games, and then it just stops. And then they all go to Disneyland for not the good reasons.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man. Memories.
Oh, for sure.
That was a memorable year if you were a Columbus fan, right? And being a part of that. But that's the fascination with this league, the twists and the turns, and you're never, even still with the way things are structured amongst salary cap and rosters, you're never feeling like, maybe there's some exceptions to this as we progress with Columbus and Miami, because you look at how they've managed their rosters, LAFC, but even on their best day, they can still get beat by the team that's at the bottom of the league. I mean, that's just the way this thing goes, and you're not top heavy yet. So it's kind of like the Hope Springs Eternals baseball spring training feeling for all those clubs out there, and yet it will last. Like, I've had this conversation so many times in different phases where it's like, yeah, and I do think Atlanta needs to win this game, but you win 1 game, then you might lose 2, you win 2 in a row, and all of a sudden you're feeling pretty good again. This thing's still going to go down to the last 2 or 3 weeks of a regular season. It just seemingly goes that way, especially when it's so tightly congested like it is with those bottom 7 or 8, 7 points apart. But that's why we love the league. I mean, it's different than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. So that kind of takes me to my next question. How do you see things shaking out the rest of the way? Miami are in a class of its own, it looks like, LA Galaxy aren't quite to their level, but they're kind of like that second tier. You have Columbus, certainly.
Yeah.
But you have, Cincinnati, you have LAFC, you have a lot of the teams below them that could still sort of be in the mix. So how do things shake out? I mean, is it Miami a foregone conclusion? MLS Cup, Miami, LA, MLS Cup for sure? Or do you see maybe Columbus making another push at it, like we were talking about? How do you think?
I'd be afraid to pick Columbus and be like, of course he's going to do this. Like look at all of his past history. But honestly, in a one-off game, gosh, that's tough to say. Right now, I will say I'm thinking Miami and Columbus in the Eastern Conference Final. But
you can say Columbus. It's okay. We're not going to judge you.
I don't know. There's something about them. Like I said, it's
Columbus.
Miami clearly makes the case for everything they've done this year, even without Messi. And they put up a masterful game the first time around against the Crew, but the Crew had considerable chances before losing that game down there. And it's one small sample size. So Cincinnati's obviously beaten them, but they've been a little wonky, right, out of Leagues Cup, and finally just ended that 4-game losing streak. Maybe it's a team too we're not talking about. I think that's more the case in the West. Columbus has seemingly solved LAFC every time they've played them. LAFC seemingly mastered Seattle in all competitions that they play. The Galaxy and Real Salt Lake are interesting. Colorado showed a little bit of grit, right, during Leagues Cup. Man, I don't know. I think there's definitely going to be a surprise within the Final Four of the league, but I still think, no one, at least from the aesthetic purposes of watching a really good final, would be surprised if it was Miami LAFC or Columbus LAFC.
Well, I'll
Part 3.
Ask me this question in October, and I'll give you a hard answer.
Right. Because it's going to be, like you said, it's the last 3 or 4 games. Look, as Atlanta fans, though, and Mark, I see in the chat saying it, but like Atlanta beat Miami with Messi in Fort Lauderdale, and then somehow beat them at home as well. It's just like they play to the level of their opponent.
Right.
But when you put Miami and Columbus next to each other, I just think Columbus has the edge. I do. I just think, especially by the end of the season, when Miami is tired, when they're a little more worn out, I just think Columbus is the better team.
Yeah, that is a really fair assessment. And I think Sean Zawadzki can go like for like in stepping in for Aiden Morris and pair with Darlington Nagbe, because oftentimes it's either mistakes or midfield battles that usually end up making the difference in those type of games. And I think the Crew can control in a situation like that. And Nancy's smart enough. That's Martino's smart enough. That's a fascinating matchup to see, how it plays out. Like, again, I'm not putting much stock in that final regular season game when they play each other. Just because it's on a Wednesday, it's so late in the season. It's one of Miami's last games, I want to say. But, they could have wrapped up the Shield by then. So if that comes to pass in the playoffs, it's must-watch stuff for sure. Yeah.
But be good for the league, I think, to have Columbus and Miami in a 1-game playoff, right? Like, I think that's good. And then even if you do, I know we saw the Cleveland. I'm an Ohio guy myself, so seeing the I'm in Cleveland.
What part?
Brunswick, by Medina.
Dude, we're rivals, man. I'm from Strongsville.
Oh, okay, yeah, 5 minutes down the street. Are you there now?
Do I say Bruns-Tucky? Do I?
Yeah. Are you in Strongsville now? Is that where you live?
No.
I was like, you want to grab a beer after this?
I went to the Browns. I went to Browns Cowboys on Sunday.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I played golf up there in Hinckley, not too far away from our homeland. Yeah. There you go.
It's like season ticket holder.
All right. Wow, small world.
Right.
We found him on the street. We don't know why he's here.
He's a Southerner at heart, though.
My brother lives in Atlanta, so it's always cool
Nice.
for me to go down there, and he's north up by he's in Brookhaven, so it's always good to see him. He worked for the Falcons for a time. He works in the NFL. So
I used to live in Brookhaven. Actually, I live in Smyrna, like a little bit northwest of the city. So
yeah, my niece is down there. I love coming down there. We've made some good golf trips out of it. I've played some great golf when I get down there, and looking forward to the atmosphere too. I think it's
I gotta ask
a game there.
Because we try to throw some similar question like this in at some point to everybody at least once a season when they come on. Do you have a favorite restaurant? Do you have a favorite place to go? Now that I know you are familiar with Atlanta.
Ooh, you know what? I do. I ate at a great place, and it's open late too. That's the big thing for an announcer in these COVID times too. After a game, I don't eat much of anything during the lead up to the game very early in the day, and then I'm pretty hungry when it's all said and done. Yep. It's over there in Midtown. I'm gonna be illegal here and pull up my phone.
So you're good.
Go for it.
It was there.
I thought you were going to say Waffle House when you said it was open late.
No.
The Varsity.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of got Holman and Finch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Familiar. Yeah. Had it a couple.
It's a gastro pub, right? But I thought I went there for brunch, and then they have a good late night menu, and I thought their concepts were really cool, and so we're going to someplace on Friday. I've got a few days actually because I'll go from there to New York City for my next game, and love getting to explore. And there's also that great little Cuban spot up by where my brother is in Brookhaven. It was on Diners, Drive-ins, and Dives.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
So, I'm going to come back with some more better addressed fine dining recommendations.
That's okay. Hey, wait. We always catch people by surprise with that question.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, we went there, and it was really good, and their kitchen's open till midnight. So, if fans need to know that if they live up in that area coming out,
there we go.
Yeah.
You weren't a dentist in Strongsville, right?
No, my father is an optometrist in Strongsville.
No way, dude.
Is this name Neil as well?
I meant
this giant
history.
Yeah. It's hilarious you bring that up because there was a friendly against Newcastle in 2011 I was doing, and it wasn't video, it was an audio stream.
Yeah.
And so the Toon Army is, as you're probably well aware, a proud bunch, a strong bunch, and they're listening to this game in the States. And I'm not puffing out my chest, but there was a lot of positive feedback. But there was also some negative stuff when you're talking in terms like that the regular English fan doesn't listen to on a regular basis. Then some people are going to take offense to that, and that's fine, But one guy said, if you're the optometrist that I read or looked up, I hope you keep your day job, But that wasn't me. That was my father. So,
and I meant to say optometrist.
They're like, wait, they come in? Patients have come into my father's practice, and they're like, do you do announcing on the side?
Right.
Oh, that's my son.
Oh.
I'm not a junior though. We have different middle names.
Right.
Yeah.
So real quick, I'm on some cold medicine, so that's why I said dentist. So these guys message me your name and say that you're coming on. I actually have gone once.
Wow.
There. Wow. So when he said it, that's why I put in our chat. I said, my doctor that I've been to, and they're like, no. And then I started Googling things. And I'm like, oh.
I hope the visit was pleasant.
It was.
Yeah, good.
It was really funny. Looking like we may get Neil Sika this week, and he goes, my eye doctor.
Absolutely, I can vouch too.
That's so good. My dad will laugh about that. Yeah, and
that's funny.
And the funny part is we, grew up in Cleveland, and this, right? It's football, basketball, baseball, getting involved with Ohio State and then doing hockey out of college kind of led to the soccer path. And so soccer and hockey have kind of changed my career more than I could have ever imagined. And I do all sports, but he was able to provide and make sure we had the environment where my brother and I were both in the sports field now and not taking over the optometry practice and going to Browns games and Indians games and Cavs games growing up in Ohio State to enjoy that experience. So it kind of set forth the path that we wanted to be on. So I'm always grateful. And I always have a lot of respect for all those eye doctors or any doctor out there. But it's a neat little tie-in for the two Neils, one the eye doctor and one the announcer.
That's awesome.
It's really interesting. Well, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like you have exactly. It sounds like you got a lot of respect for him, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, I hope to meet you guys if you're going to be at the game.
Tyler and I will be in the press box. Hopefully, get to meet Tommy. I mean, at some point, I'm sure you guys.
I'm always in Columbus. I mean, they're down there for hockey or soccer.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it'd be great to grab beer at some point or catch up along the way. And like I said, I like coming down and enjoying Atlanta. And Kevin Egan was a long time friend going back in those days, and always like talking to Mike and Jason and lead up to the game. Visit in the booth. So another trip. We're looking forward to this one, and an important game for different reasons for both teams.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, kind of talking about the match, talking about NLS as a whole, and I'm sure fans will be looking forward to your call. Thanks again. Hopefully we can have you back soon.
Fellas, thanks for having me on. I'll get some scarves and some spikes next time.
It's okay. Look,
looking forward to it.
We'll make it happen.
Better. If you talk to Kaylin Kyle, she did it from the hair salon, which
was
really? Yeah. So
she's big time like that. So you're gonna get the Ohio 4 hats right there.
All good.
There you go.
It's all good.
All right.
Neil, thanks a lot. Appreciate you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Bye.
My dogs keep barking because they heard these rumors that in Ohio people are eating dogs, so they've been on high alert over the past couple of weeks. All right, continue.
That's a whole different podcast, my friend. No, that's cool. I mean, it is a small world.
It was like when you sent that message, I was like, I mean, that's kind of weird that there's like a guy with the same name, but like whatever. Yeah. And then when he started talking about it, I forgot that he did Columbus broadcasting forever. And then as it kept going, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So when you mentioned that, I was like, dude, that's crazy.
We said Strongsville. That's when it hit me.
That's freaking amazing.
That's awesome. But looking forward to Neil's call on Saturday. And again, if you don't have MLS season passes available, $9.95 for the entire year. Rest of the year it includes.
Is it $9.99 or $9.95?
I think it's $9.99.
$9.99. It just sounded like a 3 a.m. infomercial.
$9.99. Rest
$9.99?
Oh wait,
for the
there's
whole
more.
7 weeks? Wait, are you including playoffs for free?
Yeah, it includes playoffs, includes MLS Cup, all that good stuff.
Do you count Bionis Cup as well?
I think it includes Open Cup final as well. All that for $10.
I don't want to talk about Open Cup final. Let's just move on to better things.
Fair enough. I know we kind of gave our pulse check on the match before, Neil. I know we have our giveaway coming up. But
we did have that.
Yeah, I guess. Shall we get into predictions? You guys have anything to add before you get into predictions, or so just dive right in?
I am betting Tyler's beard that Atlanta United win this game by 2 goals. 2 goals.
Are you locking it in?
Sure. No, I think they win. I look, they've been on a break for a while. I think they've got some time they've had time to prepare. I think, look, what I said earlier, and that's why I wanted to get his opinion on it, is there's got to be a state, and I don't know, I'm not a professional sports player, right? I just play one on FIFA. But there has to be a little bit of uneasiness to the entire organization, right? Whether you're in analytics, whether you're in scouting, right? I mean, people have been talking about Spector, that he's still around. Is he on his way out? But it goes all the way down, I think, to everyone there, right? Like, okay, the medical staff, right? they could come in and change the medical staff. Like, there's a lot of things that are changing with Atlanta United. And the question is how big do those changes go? And there are some players that were brought in by the former organization that maybe they valued more, right? And now with someone new coming in, whether it's the manager or the technical director, they're going to look at these guys and say, I think we're paying this guy too much for the results that we're getting, right? Or maybe he's just not our style of player that we have. And then it's not just as simple as just moving. It's moving your entire family out, right? I mean, you're uprooting to going to whatever city that you end up moving to, or whatever league, right? I mean, it's not just staying in MLS. I think we have someone that works for the medical staff here. Leave the medical staff. I apologize if I'm talking about your position, but I feel like it's got to feel a little weird around there, right? I mean, Pineda is one thing, but Carlos has been there since pretty much day one, and a lot of, I mean, there's not a ton of players that have been here for a long time anymore, but there's still a few, right? I mean, the academy, right? I mean, it goes down to everywhere, like. It's just obviously there's going to be some big changes across the board, and I'm curious what's going to happen here. And I know you talk about the new manager push, but I mean, this is a little bit different now. Like, it's obviously the situation has changed for Atlanta United, right? The entire organization is going through a gigantic change in the next 3 months, and that if I was working there in any facet, I would feel a little uneasy. And that's just with any person job, right? If you get a new boss or a new owner that comes into your company, I mean, they could come around and make sweeping changes. You're going to get that. You're getting sweeping changes, right? And that's what the fans wanted. That's that's what people were asking for, was change, right? Change to start winning. Well, Pineda's out, Boca's out. It's time for change, and let's see what these players, if they might be on full go, right? They don't want to leave. Maybe they want to be here forever.
Yeah. So you said they'll win by more than 2 on Saturday, or 2 goals on Saturday. Do you think that kind of feeds into that? I know you said Miranchuk was going to score as well, so you feel like that all feeds into Saturday then.
Yeah, I think that this is a big moment. I think we got an unexpected win in Charlotte. Yeah. I think when we go back at our predictions, I think you guys said draw and I said loss when we did this a while ago when we were doing that exercise. But you got an unexpected win, right? You still dipped a little bit in the standings because a couple teams that played while you weren't. A team passed you by. But this is a huge week. You got Miami on Wednesday, and obviously there's going to be a lot of guys that aren't going to be playing because it's Miami and they're recovering, and we play on turf. So you know who I'm talking about. That's probably not coming here.
Pizza's good though.
Yeah, the pizza's great. This week is really where I think you're going to look at it and say that this was the turn for Atlanta United, and that was my prediction. My prediction was they were going to lose the first 2 games out of the Leagues Cup, and then they were going to win this, and they were going to win Miami. I don't know how they're going to win Miami, but that's just my feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's something to be said, like your point about Bocanegra being gone. I've kind of got the feeling, and I wasn't here the day that it happened, the day the news dropped, right? But I mean, a lot of people have been asking for this to happen for a long time. And here we are. And so that, like, those things don't fall on deaf ears in the club, both players, staff, everything else. So it's going to be interesting to see how the entire club responds to it in terms of just the overall vibe around the group, because, I don't know what folks are calling him now, but Darth Lagerway, 100%, man. Like, dude is going to town. But also, this is what people asked for. You wanted a guy that was going to come in and make the changes that needed to be made. And I think you can go back now, hindsight being 2020, and kind of say, like, well, we kind of felt like this was going on for a while because, some people were called conspiracy theorists back a couple of months ago whenever Lagerway just would not talk about the head coaching job search and Bocanegra being a part of it.
Yeah.
And here we are, the Garth Father team said. So yeah, I mean, I think he clearly has a vision and an idea. And now you just gotta see if it works.
Excellent.
And he's not done. Like he's got this off season that you have to do some big things in. But I mean, getting rid of Carlos right now, that's kind of a statement. And now you have to see how your players respond, because it could be very positive. I hope it's very positive, especially coming back to the Benz. The message all freaking week should have just absolutely been like, we need to turn this place back into 2018, 2019. Like, you have to make it a fortress. You have to forget the earlier part of this year. We're winning all of our games here for the rest of the season and then on. Like, we've got to change things. This was a big change. And now, show us what it's about.
I think that's a little extreme, though. Like, they've been saying that for a long time, right? That they got to make this place a fortress.
Yeah.
I mean,
our technical director wasn't just fired, though.
Yeah, but I think that it was always going to happen. Well, Sydney and I agree with something here. Cool.
No,
but I mean, real quick before you get into it.
Here?
Yeah, right. But I think that happens when the new manager comes in. I think that conversation that you're talking about and all that, like, I know it's happening. I know that they're still saying this, but I think it really starts getting taken to heart when you get that new voice. And that's why I've been saying for such a long time, you need a new voice in there. How many times? I mean, I just saw the picture. Someone posted a picture of Joseph bending down to Parkhurst, and we looked in the back, and Rob Valentino was there.
Yeah.
And I like zoomed in. I was like, is that Rob Valentino?
Yeah.
He had hair.
But there.
That's how long he's been here. He had hair.
Yeah.
That's why I say you need a new voice. You absolutely 100% need a new voice in this locker room for the organization. You're going to get that. You're absolutely going to get that.
Really quick, you've got a lot of guys that have been through their entire career at Atlanta United, right? Has been seeing mediocrity, the ability to go out there and really, I mean, I'm not saying they're not putting forth the best effort, but it has always felt like a lot of players had another gear that they could find that they just weren't finding, right? Whatever motivation they needed wasn't happening to get them to that point. And now the main guy that was kind of in charge of the contracts and everything else that allowed you to be here, right, and paid you for, in what a lot of ways was mediocrity, is now gone.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that, the kid that keeps getting told he's going to get spanked or whatever over and over again and never does. And then one day finally, like, the parent does it and he's like, you hit me,
Right.
And now it's like, oh, wow, they actually did it. Maybe we should, 9 players are going to be potentially on their way out in this offseason. Those 9 players need to be having the absolute best season of their career up until whatever point that Atlanta's not in the playoffs anymore, or the playoff run.
So I guess kind of zeroing in to Saturday. I mean, I feel like you kind of think, this will kind of motivate Atlanta. I know you said Mirotic's going to score as well. I mean, you see like a 2-goal, 1 goal. What do you see it as? I guess
3-1 Atlanta.
3-1. Yeah. I'm not laughing at you.
You idiots. I think
No.
that's what he's trying to say to us.
No. I think it'll be much closer. I think it'll be 2-1. I think certainly Mirotic scores. I think it's definitely credence to what you guys were both saying. This is really a new era in Atlanta United. You fired the coach. You fired your technical director. Rob is still there, but essentially every piece of that old regime is gone. And it's on the players. Okay. It's all the players to perform. It's on the players to go out and do what they need to do, because, as you kind of implied, Tyler and Tommy, these are job auditions for next year. And granted, regardless, a few of them won't be here, period, but these are job auditions for next season, 2025 and beyond. A lot of these guys have options for next year. Some of them have options for the next 2 years. So you're playing for your jobs, not to be hyperbolic, but some of them you're playing for your jobs. The next technical director, next GM, whoever that is, the next manager, whoever that is going to be watching and saying, okay, do I want these guys on my team 2025, 2026, beyond? They're going to be looking at it and say, how does this team respond to adversity? How does this team respond to everything that's gone on? And the players that haven't are going to be gone, going to be out of this team. So I think they do respond. I do think they win. I think it'll be a little bit closer. I think it'll be a 2-1 scoreline. I think Mirotic scores as well. I think one of the strikers score. I want to say Rios. I think Rios will score the strikers need to get going, as he said, Tommy last week. They need to get going, get things rolling. I think they do that to some extent on Saturday against Nashville SC.
Yeah, and I think like Lennon's a good example of that. Real quick, like Lennon's gonna have to get a contract extension here soon, and someone could come in and be like, you know what, he's been playing okay, right? But do we want to give him that increase, because he's probably going to want an increase, right? Or do we trade him while there's value here, right? That we could still get something for him and move him on to someone that will pay him. I mean, that's just an example of something, right? I mean, and maybe the Carlos, really wanted to re-sign him. Obviously, he traded for him, right? Brought him in. Obviously, he likes the guy. And you've seen this with a lot of organizations, that when new people come in, the favorites of the franchise all of a sudden aren't the favorites. They're just like everyone else, and people are expendable. And that's, that's always the most interesting thing, is when a front office changes, a full front office change, because it's usually chaos. And we already know there was going to be chaos, even if Carlos was still here. Even if he was still here next season, there were still so many roster things that you were going to have to make moves. And now you got a guy that comes in now that's even more unpredictable, which is why this winter is going to be so exciting. Like, I always dread the winter, because we always try, like, we're desperately trying to talk about things. We're not going to have that problem this year. And if we do have that problem, it's going to be us screaming that we haven't heard any rumors, and where the hell are the players?
Yeah.
And I think even in the nearer sense, you have two really prime examples of Daniel Rios and Jamal Terry. One's on a loan, one's at the end of the contract. And it's like, you are absolutely playing for your job, because going into the offseason, Atlanta could potentially not have a striker at all. And you could be setting yourself up you're probably going to be a backup, right? Because I'm certain they're going to go after a DP striker in the offseason. But you're still playing for your job, because at least you're somewhat guaranteed some time, right? But yeah, anyway, it's all to the same point. But I think this past week has changed the outlook for a lot of players, in a lot of senses. So Bruno, yes, you always have me. I can miss a sitter, and I can have a goal called back for a handball that wasn't a handball. I'll do my best.
You guys ready to give away EA Sports FC 25?
2.
Yeah.
2?
Yeah, we're doing 2.
2 giveaways.
Surprise.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, thank you to everyone that entered on Instagram, on Twitter, on our Discord. We wanted to bring some positivity into this whole season, right? We were talking about giving things away. We were talking about giving tickets, and then we're like, do people really want to go to the games? We were a little bit nervous about it. It's EAFC season. The new game's coming out in a couple weeks. So what we're going to do, give a couple games away. Hopefully we can meet up online and play. It's cross-play, so you definitely be able to do that. But yeah, thank you. The pictures were really cool, especially on Twitter. That was my favorite part going through it today, was going back through all the pictures that everybody put of like the first game. Bo put up that picture of Joseph bending down to Parkhurst there. Just so many cool memories of what we had. And for all the trolls that kept putting Miguel Berry things in there for me, I whatever. And Zilf's name's on here, and he put any Aruju goal. So Zilf will,
all 4 of them.
Yeah. Jeez. All right. So here's one.
Love you, Zilf. I like the background though. That's pretty nice.
Thank you. Yeah. I did it. That was me.
Very nice.
Oh my God, it's close.
Nobel Prize in sarcasm.
Hey.
Congratulations. We'll reach out to you.
That's a Twitter person.
Cool.
All right. One more. That one down.
Remove.
One more. Take him off.
Zilf, I love you.
Is he in the chat? I can't see.
Yeah.
Oh. Who is it?
That's close.
Land in your face.
Dude, it's so funny that he did that, because I started typing it in on the thing, and I was like, Landon, and oh, okay. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I'll explain to you what it means later, Sydney. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
For entering the contest. We appreciate it. A lot. We'll be back on Saturday on Spaces and the pre-show. You guys will be. I'll be drinking wine and whatever. Hay
corn maze or something, or
it's a corn maze. Yeah.
Okay. Quick housekeeping, real quick. Next Wednesday, we're at the Sika by Hilton. Join us there, as Tommy said. Spaces on Saturday after the match, pre-match before. Hopefully, a 3 takeaways video after the match. We're still trying to work out what that looks like exactly. So join us there as well. If
Monday?
You're a patron,
are we doing Monday?
We'll talk.
We haven't talked about it, but it's a midweek one.
Tuesday. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Monday.
Yeah.
So yeah, Saturday for sure. Pre-match, Spaces after, and then hopefully a 3 takeaways or something like that video here on YouTube after the match. If you're a Patreon backer, thanks so much for being a Patreon backer. By the way, we're doing a after the show right after we get off the air here, so join us there. If you're not a Patreon backer, go to patreon.com/scarvesandspikes and join us for as low as $1.17 a month. But again, after the show, patron only, have a bonus episode. Join us there. Go to patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. The link will be right there. And I think that's it. And again, MLS Season Pass. Scarvesandspikes.com.
All up on all the news.
/we rule.
On X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook.
Mastodon.
Yeah. Not Mastodon yet. But yeah, we're all over the place. So join us. Obviously, coverage leading up to the match, before, during, after match. So join us there. Appreciate you guys. Thanks as always. You are awesome. We always appreciate you tuning in, watching, listening, and we'll definitely see you next time here.
Thank you to Neil.
Neil and Spikes. And thanks to Neil Sika as well. For MLS Season Pass, $9.99. Rest of the season leading up to MLS Cup.
And I heard if you go to Neil's dad's, you can get an iVisit for $9.99 as well. Just a
I don't know if that's true, but I don't.
Just ask for Neil. When you see Neil, ask for Neil.
You told me on the podcast the other day. Remember?
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Peace.